Kia tau mai te maramatanga, kia tau mai te rangimaria, kia tau mai te kaha me te whai whakaaro mō tēnei kaupapa, hui e. Kia ora. Welcome everybody, and we've got quite a packed agenda. We've got apologies from lateness from Councillor Moutere, who's coming back from an appointment, and we will do declarations of interest now. Anyone's got any declarations of interest? Yep.
So I have a declaration of interest for community streets when Johnson presents.
Likewise for me.
Same topic.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we'll kick off to public forum. Now we do have a chocker, so we're doing 5 minutes for public forum and 10 minutes for presentations. So the first person on my list is Paul Johnson, Motueka Community Streets. And I'll just have the timer on, just for my own reflection, but I'll just give you a nod and you can bring up.
I probably won't take 5 minutes. Just got those to pass around, just in reference to my community. Yeah, kia ora whanau. Paul Johnson is my name. I coordinate the Safe Families Motueka Community Streets project. We're onto our 5th street in town. So previously worked in Woodland Avenue, Poppins Place, Bennett Street, and currently working in Boyce and York Street. So the project is managed by Safe Families Motueka, and I coordinate those projects. At the beginning of the projects, we do a street survey. So we go around and we ask the residents what could happen in their streets to make it safer and a more connected and more beautiful place to live. And part of what came out of that survey, and the reason for my presentation today, is that a lot of the residents in those streets have identified the lack of give way signs and road markings on the intersections of Angle Street, Boyce Street and Clay Street. And so I'm here on behalf of those residents to advocate for some signs to go up and some road markings to be put in place. The residents report a lot of near misses. I have been in communication with council, who came back and said there's only one crash on record, which was at Boyce Street. However, the residents speak of a lot of near misses involving children, mobility scooters, pedestrians on those streets, and especially the Ingle Street, as you'll see on your map, with Moffat comes around the corner into York. So there's not a lot of visibility at that corner. There's also a tree near that corner as well, which doesn't aid with visibility. So yeah, the reason for me being here is to, point out this is a hazardous situation, and in the hope that something can be done about it before anyone gets harmed, injured. So yeah, that's why I'm here, and I'm representing those residents who would love to see something done about those intersections. Yeah, so any questions? All right. Okay. Thank you. And my contact details are at the bottom of that handout. Thank you.
Yeah. Matthias Schaefer.
In the country I was born, there was no freedom of speech and no freedom of expression. But now I'm here in New Zealand, and we have the New Zealand Bill of Rights, and it's written, everyone has the right to freedom of expression. Of course, there are some limitations, Defamation Act, Harassment Act, Crimes Act, and so on. But over the past few decades, the rules have been clearly established how and what we can speak about in public. And now I sit here in a public meeting and I exercise my freedom of speech, and I find myself in a position that I'm very restricted what I can actually talk about because of your standing orders. Quote, the chairperson will stop a presentation at any time where the speaker is criticizing elected members of staff, or the matter is subject to legal proceedings. So this means, in fact, I cannot speak about a court case that, to my understanding, has no substance whatsoever. I cannot speak about a forged document. I cannot speak about an invalid search warrant. I cannot speak about unlawful detainment. I cannot speak about discrimination, not about harassment, not about...
No, I'd like to raise a point of order. This gentleman's been...
Hey, right. You're all gonna listen, yeah? All of you. You've been harassing that family. It is absolutely disgusting. And who's that fucking laughing over there? It's absolutely unacceptable. No, you will all listen because you are public servants and you serve us. I know that family and...
Then have speaking rights. Thank you.
Make a note of that. Sorry about that, Wallace.
continue?
Am I saying this?
Can I continue?
You can continue.
Thank you very much. I cannot speak about discrimination, not about harassment, not about defamation, because this would be actually criticizing staff. And I cannot speak about that I'm labeled as a violent person. It would also be criticizing staff. Despite the fact that all these points that I mentioned are utterly wrong, I cannot speak about them openly here. Even that all these points I mentioned are not only happening to me, but also to other members of our community, I still cannot speak about this because it's against your standing orders. Why should I not be able to speak about legal proceedings here? The community board cannot initiate any legal proceedings and is not involved in any legal proceedings. Why should I not be able to criticize staff here? The community board does not employ any staff and has no responsibility to be a good employer. These restrictions, they make no sense to me. But the bigger question is, are these restrictions in the standing orders, are they actually fit for purpose? Because Section 52 of the Local Government Act states, the role of community board is to represent and act as an advocate for the interest of the community. But how can you know about the interest of this community when the community cannot speak openly in a community board meeting? I can speak about cracks in the footpath and the tree is too high and the fence is too low and if you want to have cycleways or not, but I cannot raise really serious, important issues that deeply affect the well-being of our community. Councillor Maru advised me last week I could file a complaint with the chief executive on these matters. That's exactly what I did 4 times last year. But until today, I have a lot of the issues that I raised are not addressed. So in my experience, the complaints process at TDC is not working. And to be honest, I don't want to file a complaint. I'm more interested in open debate. And if someone is correct, I think they welcome open debate. And if someone is lying, they will attempt to suppress the opponent. And if someone doesn't have enough facts to convince the public of a view, then the facts most likely are not on their side. Last time I was here, I questioned how a code of conduct can be applied to this board when this board did not adopt a code of conduct. I specifically refer to Section 39 in the Local Government Act, quote, that expected conduct of elected members is clear and understood by this community. But until today, I got no answer to this question. However, I see on the agenda for the full council tomorrow morning that there's an agenda item called Code of Conduct, but it is attempted to exclude the public when this is discussed in this meeting tomorrow morning. To my understanding, this is absolutely against the principle of democratic accountability. So, Councillor Walker or Councillor Dowler, if you are in this meeting tomorrow, I would like to see that you use your freedom of speech and advocate for the interest of this community, because being excluded from a meeting when there's clear public interest in a topic and in relation to people that we elected to represent us, I think that's not okay that we are excluded from this session in this meeting tomorrow morning. And in my opinion, this cannot happen in a true democracy. Thank you.
Are there any questions from board? Points of clarification.
Clarification.
Thank you for that. And apologies to everyone for the language online.
No, you need to listen because it's absolutely appalling. You're harassing people
We have
over
a
a tiny
client.
house.
He's unmuted.
Yeah, well, you're going to have to listen.
Sorry, Thomas, I'm just going to ask.
No.
No.
What is it? 65
We will
times
have to
surveilling
remove
that
you
property?
from online if you please.
Well, this
do
is
not
the way
interrupt
it
the
is.
meeting.
You guys are going full comrade.
I'm sorry,
you know?
but we've got quite a full meeting
Well, you
today,
need to
and
listen,
so I would
because that
like
should
to
be
hear
top
from
of
the
your
rest of the
agenda.
public here. So, if
Well,
we
you need to
can't-
learn to listen and you need to stop harassing ratepayers. That's what you
Sorry,
need to do.
Thomas, we're going to have to remove you from the meeting. Okay, so moving on, we've got Christine Schaefer. Kia ora.
In a recent newspaper article, I could read that a local councillor showed herself worried that not enough was done by central government to provide new housing. Another councillor told me recently that in Tasman we couldn't build as many houses as were needed. We often talk about unconsented dwelling allegations. I believe some people follow all the rules how they understand them. This topic is known to council latest since 2019 and no substantial change to the law was made since. Members of the community creatively find solutions to work within the rules, and the newspapers provide a good snapshot of innovative approaches. In a time of crises, when people struggle to pay their food or rent or mortgages or even find places to stay, is it not the duty of every single one of us to support the people around us and to be supported? This could mean one helps with providing space and one with providing a helping hand. I think this is a basic human attribute of given and taken. This creates a sense of belonging, purpose, stability, and resilience, community in short. What I am seeing, however, is a change does take a long time. Enforcement actions, on the other hand, are being quickly accessed with a massive impact on people's rights to privacy. Some of my experience make me wonder whether I am being dealt with fairly, respectfully, and free of bias. What needs to happen before this ends? I do not want to believe that this is the norm. I do not want anyone, including children, to go through this, what I am currently going through. How would you feel standing on your deck, not knowing who's watching you today? How would you let your kids run freely with some stranger taking pictures whenever it pleases him? I acknowledge that this community board has shown commitment to recommend possible changes to council. I am genuinely hoping that you will carry on with your work and continue to be a voice for those who have voted for you and place trust in your abilities to advocate for our needs. TDC's actions harm us. We feel harassed, not to speak from financial burden. However, I'm telling my kids that someone else's behavior towards us shows someone else's mind, not ours. It is our duty, though, to choose wisely to respond to other people's actions. What I wish for is the following when making recommendations to council. Please acknowledge the urgency of the housing problem. Please acknowledge that central and local government do not have systems in place to provide for enough solutions on their own, and acknowledge that communities are taking responsibility for finding solutions for their needs. Please request to be provided with a clear understanding of what a structure and what a building is, and that this understanding is to be made publicly available. Please request to be provided with information whether council is using a different definition of building to the Building Act. Should there be any uncertainty of how to interpret particular provisions, to my understanding, there's always the opportunity to initiate declaration proceedings with the Environment Board to have a possible uncertainty resolved. Please make sure that methods are respecting of a prudent approach to spending of public money. Further, when council is exercising its discretion to gain compliance in relation to suspected offences that relate to housing, I would like to point out that all of the actions should be appropriate to the suspected offence, not in relation to any perceived sympathy or antipathy towards the persons behind the suspected offence. This is a basic democratic principle to guarantee consistent decision-making and therefore predictability. This also contributes to less costs and frustration on both sides. I understand that a proportion of staff have a police background. Police investigations, monitoring, and inspections may differ substantially from what is allowed and appropriate in a local government framework. A further possible conflict of interest could also arise from the fact that council is budgeting for fines, which bears the possibility that softer and less invasive methods of investigation, like providing education, could be less used as they might generate less income for council. I urge you to consider that council has the obligation to act so it benefits the social well-being of its community, and that the social well-being has the highest priority in the Act because it also relates to the basic human rights, like the one to have a shelter. Please, that when court proceedings are being initiated, please let it be in consultation with Chair or Deputy Chair of the Environment and Regulatory Committee or with full council as per the delegations register to assure the public that the governance body has sufficient knowledge of a case to confirm it thinks it is appropriate to initiate those proceedings. I also would like to point you out to the section 276(2) of the RMA. The Environment Court is not bound by the rules of law about evidence that apply to judicial proceedings. I am therefore urging you to recommend that any evidence gathering is made to the best possible standard to avoid further costs should one party be otherwise forced to involve a higher court to establish the validity of certain documents. And lastly, if council has got evidence that is then requested by a party, could you make sure that council respects a party's right to have this evidence made available and not to destroy it because council think that it does not contain relevant evidence for them? This would contribute to fairness, transparency, and reduced cost. Thank you. Yeah. I'll leave it to you. Will you?
Our next speaker is Inlet.
Chairman and members of the community board. Number one, I would imagine that a fair percentage of our Tasman community would have been thrilled that our own local covered pool is now actually going to be provided. This is a fantastic achievement and in an excellent physical location. My request to the community board is that it would be prudent for us to show our practical support for its success by including it in our special projects financial gift. Is this gesture possible? Please. And number two, before the Christmas traffic really builds up, put the large rough surfaces on the corners of High and Motueka Street be properly repaired with a plant mix product as used outside West End Jewellers. Seems to be the only one that lasts, and I'm wondering if we could use that one. And finally, on the roadside of the gutter outside number 15 Parker Street, there is a large pothole which will be a danger to cyclists. Could this please be lifted? Good. Thank you very much.
You didn't request to speak. And Ray Hillier.
Madam Chairman, members of the board, ladies and gentlemen, my name's Ray Hauora, and I'm here representing myself and Mr. Stevens Automotive. I rise to speak on the secondary part of a letter sent to the board dated the 6th of November and signed by us. The primary part of the letter is deferred until a later date. We're concerned about the comments in a document dated 2nd of November 2021 made by the Regulatory Services Manager in response to an investigation held following questions we asked about a serious environmental hazard that the council was involved in 2018. There are two comments in the document that concern us. It was stated that our questions were part of, quote, part of an ongoing fantasy, which is funny, which Ray Hauora and Brett Stevens have created, close quote. This response was demonstrably untrue, as the passage of time has proved that we were correct. It was no fantasy. It was also stated in the same document that, quote, Hauora tells people that council gave permission for people to bury cars in the Motueka River and thus cause pollution. Also demonstrably untrue. While the propensity for spite, victimisation, vengeance and harassment will be somewhat lessened with the impending resignations of some staff, we're still concerned that there is a capability within the council to continue this practice. For some people, it's not a happy place to live or operate a business in. We are asking the board to take action against the Regulatory Services Manager to have these statements retracted, apologies tendered, and all references to these statements removed from council files. This includes information stored under the council's evidential gathering policy and data that has been recorded in accordance with the council's compliance strategies. Thank you.
Kevin?
Thank you. Board members and councillors, thanks for the opportunity and compliments to the board on the number of issues they have resolved positively for the environment and for the area in general. I referred to the Tasman View lookout where the shade sail was erected. It's still going well. And this part of what I'm talking about today is when I went down to enjoy the now unencumbered view from the Seddon Wharf, I could now look out and not see that horrible fence. It is really nice. However, when I got up, I did look up, I saw a four-wheel drive vehicle on the beach. I thought, well, that was pretty interesting. And he was going hell for leather too, by the way. So what I wanted to show you is that is a compliant motor car, pretty small. But you can see my doors open, and if you could flick to the next one. It's going to show just how much area is available for people to crack on. So this particular four-wheel drive is using that area to get down onto the beach and then going up north and churning up the sand and whatever. So kids could be playing on the side, people could be walking down. It is a hazard to be erected, to be affected. So the history apparently is that one of the rocks was moved for a party and the party goers never replaced the rock. So in the first photograph of that one there, where my door is, that rock can be moved or moved over, or another one similar size, and they're pretty hard to move. You'd have to have a tractor to do it. That would then seal that area so that if people are enjoying the beach, they're not going to be ridden over. Thank you. Cheers.
Okay, so let's move on to moving October minutes and confidential minutes. So sorry, board member Grant, I will invite you to the table. We've just got a couple of presentations and then we'll squeeze you in. Yeah. Okay, so that the minutes of the Motueka Community Board meeting held on Tuesday, 17th of October, 2023 be confirmed as true and correct record of the meeting. And we'll move to the confidential at the same time, if that's okay. That the confidential minutes of the Motueka Community Board meeting held the same evening confirmed as true and correct. Oh, okay, yeah. Do I have mover, Councillor Dowler? No.
Oh,
No.
No, I think it's been sorted out. The query I had.
You
I'll
have a
think
second.
of it then. That's
So second by Board Member Armstrong. And we also, sorry, I forgot earlier to accept the apologies of Councillor Manu. Yep. For lateness. I'll move and please. Board Member. Discretionary fund applications. So a motion to receive the report and decide on each application. So I'm sure. I got writing.
Oh, yeah, he's first, yeah. Yeah.
From writing disabled here. Oh, lovely. Sorry, we don't have your name on the paper. Sarah. You just want to give a brief 1 minute overview. The board have read your paper.
As outlined in my application, we're currently running a pilot program for 5 teenagers aged 14 and 15 who are not attending school. We're very lucky to get some funding from Network Tasman, and we've now been working with Motueka High School and the police in Motueka who really support this program. We've done 16 sessions. It's been incredibly successful. We had 2 boys and 3 girls who started the program, and we asked what their goals were. None of them have belief or had belief in their abilities, or their self-confidence was super low. They were spending a lot of time doing virtually nothing, no friends, no relationships. And during the course of this pilot program, they have started to believe in their ability. Their self-confidence has skyrocketed. They're connecting with each other, supporting each other, no put downs. The transformation has been incredible. So we really would like to keep this program going. The police have already found $440 to support 2 more students for next year. And our application is for 3 more students for $660 to make another group, because the referrals will keep coming from the high school. And we just believe this program is a real game changer for this community.
Yeah, I read through your application and I think it's a fantastic idea. And yeah, congratulations on getting that off the ground. Is there any questions from the board? I mean, I'm happy to. Yeah.
See the results.
Well, just Carol Fowler, who's the regional, I think she's called attendance rather than truancy advisor now, is just amazed by the success. And one of the boys is no longer on her books. She never has to track what he's doing. He's choosing to stay at school. He's staying there during lunchtime. He's talking about his experiences at RDA because he's got something to talk about that he feels proud about. It's great. Thank you.
Sorry, Marion? Yep. Marion.
Good afternoon. Yeah, the Motueka Art Group hold their annual exhibition every year in January, February, and for the last at least 25 years, it's been a very successful event in the community, and lots of people really look forward to it. In these days, not as many paintings get sold. I think the financial crisis has hit, but people really enjoy coming and visiting the art, and they look out for their friends' artworks. And it is a community thing, as well as attracting lots of visitors from, used to be overseas, but now it's mainly the tourists from New Zealand. We applied for our grant from TDC, and for the last 2 years we've had some funding. Unfortunately, this year arts don't seem to be part of their priority. So in order to have this event, we need to support ourselves. We spent $5,000 almost last year on some new art stands, and it would be a shame if we can't run an exhibition with our new art stands. So St Thomas's, where our venue, have had to put up their costs considerably, and that's why I've put in an application for $500 to help go towards the art exhibition to help it run.
I've mentioned a number of those back over the years. Really enjoyed them. They're great for town at that time of year, especially.
And I actually, one of them bought a painting that was painted by, speaking here, still.
My name's Painter.
I'm happy to support that in emotion.
Okay, thanks. So the community board receives a report and grants, on the right one, and grants approval to both applications. I'll move that. David, member Armstrong will second. All in favour? Anyone against? Carried. Okay, moving forward to our presentations. So we have Hauora Wellbeing for Communities, Sarah and Charlotte, and what else? Sorry, there are two names on here. Kia ora, ladies, and your hands.
Kia ora. Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Sarah Shaughnessy tōku ingoa, ko kaupakahaere, hora matua ki te tai aurere. I have the pleasure of being Chief Executive of Nelson Bay's Primary Health Care, and that provides primary and community accessible healthcare across our communities. Golden Bay here in Motueka and up the valleys, Hauora valleys, and right through to Nelson. So I thought today was a good day that we would come and just tell you a little bit about what we can offer and our services that are freely available to our communities and how we would want them accessible to our communities here, particularly in Motueka. So I'm just going to introduce myself, and then I'm actually going to hand over to our wonderful team who represent you here in Motueka. So thank you for having us here today.
Kia ora tātou, ko Charlotte Etheridge tukonga, ko General Manager Primary Care, ko Mahi Hauora matua ki te tai aorere, ko Fry tuko whānau no Riwaka aho. So very proud local Motueka lady, and still live here, so I love it. So just a little bit of brief overview of the portfolio of General Manager. So I have the health services to support general practice. So we have obviously 2 in Motueka, and we have 20 over in Richmond and Nelson. Also have infectious diseases, rheumatology, community rheumatology, and mental health services. So just wanted to briefly touch on a few key parts of the commitment to equity, because Māori in Motueka, we do have the highest population of Māori in Motueka, and where we focus. And so part of that program of work has been our Hapu Mama project, which is identifying pregnant mums in the community that are yet to be vaccinated or enrolled in general practice and engaging them into their community into supporting their health needs from the group. Another key part is Piko Horua, which is a very new strategy where we support Māori and Pacific into general practice that are yet engaged. So it's identifying that unenrolled, and it's been really successful. Something that's really new is this integrated primary mental health and addiction service. So in our general practices, we have what's known as the hipsters, or the health improvement practitioners and the health coaches. They're a free mental health service for our enrolled population. So they focus on our behavioural therapy and really quick interventions, and they give patients the tools to support some of those emotions that they're dealing with day to day. So it might be a level of anxiety, depression, or it could be something that they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, like grief or financial stresses or anything that's going on for them at the time. This has been sort of a 3-year rollout, and it's been done in tranches, and it was our priority population right from the beginning. So we are really lucky to have our full, what we use the terminology FTE, so full-time equivalent. So we've got the full allocation of the HIPs in the Motueka community and the health coaches. From an extension to the access and choice contract, which is the one that we've just been talking about, is a new one that you'll start seeing within the community, which is called the comprehensive primary care teams. And so they're extended care teams supporting our general practice and our community providers for better access of healthcare. So they'll be made up of a clinical pharmacist, physio, kaifina, and care coordinators. So they'll be bringing all that care around a patient that may be having trouble to access health. So that's, and it's infancy, but really exciting. And lastly, I just want to touch on Te Tiaki Ngāwari, which is a flexible care sort of pocket of money that's distributed to general practices to support acute level needs. It might be long-term conditions, and predominantly it is long-term conditions, and it also might be extended appointments, because it's always challenging. General practices are incredibly busy, and there might be needs where you need that extended time with that GP or that nurse. And rather than the means for financial means were there, the Te Tiaki is able to actually support and fund that for the patient. So this is just a real quick snapshot from our recent AGM that we had 2 weeks ago, I think now, time flies, just about some of our focuses.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Tonya Tupunga, no whakatua hau, ko kai whakahaere, kai toku Hauora. So I'm Tonya Talbot. I'm the Health Promotion Manager at Nelson Bay's Primary Health. So look, we have a whole range of services which are free to the community, and this is just some of them that come under our Living Well umbrella. We've also got Starting Well, Mentally Well, and Aging Well. So just a few to highlight that are available to everybody in Nelson Bay's, but in Motueka. So we have our green prescription service that supports people with lifestyle change. So it's all about promoting and preventing long-term conditions. And this is something that you will see more of next year in Motueka. We'll be having one of our Kickstart programs out here on a regular basis. We have the community nutrition service, so dietitians who work out of the 2 general practices, and that's a free service. And also our community diabetes education program. So we've had a bit of a partnership with the Over 50s Hub here in Motueka, and have been delivering type 2 diabetes education programs in the evening. So yeah, we've just got a whole range. So we'll flick to the next slide, and yeah, what 3 of us would invite you to do is have a look at our annual report, and there's an overview of services that we provide. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
There's not this slide.
Might have a netball. Social netball on a Tuesday night.
Get to your game then. You
That's
need to warm
our
up.
secret weapon.
Might get a call up soon.
Thanks, lady.
AA Councillor Malcolm Curry.
Welcome.
Thank you, members, for inviting me along. Spoken to a total of time, but I can't see other places. Well, you may recognise my place. I represent. I serve on the AA Council of the Tasman District, and as you know, AA serves 1.8 million members who try to put their points of view forward or look their way. We have shifted into mobility, and that's not necessarily a disability mobility, but sort of buses, bikes, EVs, and the like. So there is a change in the AA at the moment. There's we have a new CEO. She is very good. So going on from that, my background, I'm actually an electrician by trade, but I have a motoring history going back to my mum, who used to race Austin Sevens on Reedy Beach in her primitive years, shall we say. I'm still actively involved in motorsport and anything transport related. I've driven a lot of miles in New Zealand and in America. I've probably done 50 or 60,000 miles in America as well. So I like to bring that to the table as well with experience. I was asked to present some options for a bypass of Motueka. And as you know, or as you probably know, there's been one on the table for a long time, which involves Queen Victoria Street, where I live, and I have no particular axe to grind. There's enough trucks and stuff going up now, and if it gets extended, fine, not a problem. So I'd like to think that I'm unbiased in what I do anywhere along the line, whether it be this or whatever place. But the first thing I'll talk about is what I call option one, which, as far as I know, there is I hope you've read this or seen this or have a look at it. I understand there is an easement off State Highway 60 into Wildwood Road. Now, somebody may or may not be able to confirm that. That's what you get up. That's to leave here. This is the Motueka River Bridge, and just after that, I understand there's an easement to take you into Wildwood Road. Can anybody confirm, know about it, heard about it? It's been gossip since I've ever been in the area.
There is a paper road.
There is a paper road. Well, it may not be an easement, but a paper road, at least it's there.
Not quite on that angle, but similar.
Well, you know, yeah, I haven't seen anything about it. So using that in both my options, or the options I'm putting forward, would take you to Queen Victoria Street, Lower Moutere Highway corner, which has got Queen just there, and follow the white line. Unfortunately, when you come to the end of Queen Victoria Street, it sort of peters out a bit and follows a watercourse round, and that's in this area here. The watercourse goes right, this is the wee narrow bit. I know it's not a very good map, and it's a photo taken off the map outside the information centre, so I can get both bits. Anyhow, there's a watercourse runs right through here, and it starts back at the airport from what I can see. There's open watercourse along here. So to follow that would be quite a major construction. I don't know, but I think the original bypass was to go out here and back onto State Highway 60, which brings our Blessed Bridge into account. So I don't see that as an option or a viable option. A bypass is Motueka, but it doesn't achieve some things that we probably want to do, and that's an improvement of the bridge. So Queen Street could go straight through and join up with whatever road it is. I think it's River Road, which takes you into the end of Walker. That gets around the bridge problem, apart from building a new one, but it doesn't get past the problem of going through Walker, and where it's quite narrow, and through a couple of 90-degree turns and past the Walker pub, if you like, around that route. So the second route is to go up to Queen Street, go straight through into Hurst House, go right into Chamberlain, and go right through Swamp Road and coming out back on State Highway 60 at Derradoon Corner. A whole heap of advantages, one way or the other. The easement in Queen Victoria Street, 30-foot easement from the centre of the road. That's why I've got a nice wide verge that I pay rates on, and moat. Well, actually, Richard knows it for me, but that's fine. But there's a whole lot of fish hooks in there too. There's overhead lines, for instance, that are right down one side of the road, which need to be moved sideways. There's 72 odd on that route. There's about 72 houses that are affected. Most of the houses in Queen Street on the west side would need replacement fences, and some of them would be left with virtually no front yard. But you've only got to drive down and have a look at that. The other thing is that that road would probably need a reasonable amount of reconstruction. So if we go to option 2, most of the road is there. It's a very wide verge, Hurst House or Wildman Road, Hurst House, and Chamberlain Street till it runs out at Waireka. It comes to a T intersection anyway. And unfortunately, there's a house in the road, but it is, whether there's a paper road through there or not, it joins with it joins and then goes into Swamp Road, and basically it's a straight line. It needs a new bridge as well. The benefit I see of that over Queen Victoria Street is the fact that you could probably construct, well, you can construct the bridge in both cases and improve Swamp Road, which would need quite a bit of improving. As you know, it's quite narrow and it's got quite a lot of drainage ditches on each side. But that would be able to be done with minimal disruption to traffic when traffic flows and to people. Both routes have got about 72 houses on them, affected residences. I haven't counted businesses. But the Queen Victoria, I haven't counted any houses at all. And I'm not sure, I don't know how many be there, say 50 houses, so it's probably more than that. So they're the two viable issues that I can see. Somebody said the other day, oh, why would you go out of town? Why would you go to Chamberlain Street? Well, isn't that the object of the exercise? Is to move it out of town. We're lucky, and I've said before, we're lucky that we're on a grid system here in Motueka, so that either of those options will still leave access into the town. If you come out of the Moutere Highway, you can go straight through, or if you can come out of the Mott Valley, you can go into town, or you can bypass. Either way, going either way. Also using Chamberlain Street, I would imagine, and I haven't got any control over this, is that the speed limit would be maybe 70 or 80k, but if it goes to Queen Victoria Street, it'll be 50k for the whole length of it. So I think either one, both of them will produce a reasonable amount of noise, but I think option 2 is probably less noisy. Well, it won't be less noisy, but it'll affect less people. Hurst House, where you go into Chamberlain, I think it's probably Power Board or State Hydro, whatever you want to call them these days. It's their corner, and that should just be a curve rather than a corner. It's got a curve now where it goes around the Hurst House corner. So, any questions?
Thank you, Malcolm. So just so I understand, so option 1 and option 2, which would mean new bridge to go over those
one each.
One each, or yeah. But the existing bridge
Would stay.
Would stay.
It would stay for all the locals and to service pack houses and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I don't think if you use Queen Victoria Street, the volume of traffic will go up. If you use Chamberlain Street, I don't think the volume of traffic will go down at Queen Victoria Street, because it still services, the airport, quite a few pack houses and those sorts of things. I've no figures to support that, of course.
Are you aware of the 2010 traffic study done by the Transport Agency?
2010, no.
Okay. So I can either talk to you briefly if you want to leave early with it, or it'll be in the chair's report.
Whatever. I've got another meeting to go to, but does it affect what I've been telling you?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's fine. I'd love to read it. I can go out of the room and talk with Malcolm in a minute, or if you want to get away, or I
Oh, I've got, you know, half an hour already.
don't think we'll be that quick.
So I have put this to the, on one of 10 councillors, and we discussed it the other night at our monthly meeting. So my representation on the council, I tend to look at it, traffic issues in this area, but I still have an input into Nelson and you know, the Wangamoas, or where we see a problem or may affect generally our Nelson Tasman area, lots of the Lewis Pass and things like that. So we make submissions on the speed thingy that's out at the moment, which has been deferred, which is good because we'll all probably have a holiday. So so if there's nothing else, I think. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Just wondering, have you had any dialogue with the retailers on High Street about your proposed plans?
Not at all. I wasn't asked to do that. I was only asked to present these two things. I don't think it will affect retailers specifically. There'll be holiday traffic that bypasses, but most of that holiday traffic, say if they go to criteria, will come back to shop here or whatever. But then again, it's the same thing, taking 55-ton logging trucks out of the main street at Christmas is probably a good thing, no matter where it goes. I don't think it's viable to go east of High Street. I don't think the roading there would put up with it. We can't get into it. You know, there's no easy route into it. So,
Thank you. Yeah, just to clarify, so this Malcolm's presentation came about from an earlier board meeting when we discussed options, and he was identified as someone that had talked earlier about it. So really appreciate you bringing all this information together and presenting today, Malcolm.
yeah, anytime. I'm only happy to have some sort of input or look at our views. Sometimes there's a bigger view as well.
Yes. So Councillor Gallagher liaise briefly on 2010 information. Another question. Yep.
Yeah. Just the March 2010 transport study. So that's obviously a long time ago. How is it? Is a lot of it still relevant? Because there's been a lot of increase in traffic since 2010. So that was really my question is, and was that planning for future, or was that
There was a proposed bypass in the 2010 traffic study, which was proposed to be done within 20 years.
So we've got 6 years to do it.
Also, figures that we have that NZTA provided is there's a 43% increase in heavy traffic in the next 30 years in the Tasman region. And that's partly because we're not served by rail, and there's only a couple of roads in, or one road in, one road out, or whichever way you want to look at it. There's only a few routes. So, and that's based on our present growth. Whether that continues is not a different story. It's creating all sorts of other issues. You know, the Southern Bypass and the Hope Bypass, and we could be here forever. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Want to have a quick?
So our last presentation is transport choices. Dan. And Ross. Yep, Dan and Rob, and is it you two?
Yep.
Very good. I've prepared a report here and happy to take it as read and accept questions. One update, I got a question from David regarding the issue of whether we do the work by the saltwater baths or not. So the background to that is that at the community board meeting on the 16th of May, the decision was made to spend 10,000 completing the southern end of the walk cycle path onto Waver Street, Esplanade, for both North Street
both the end of North Street and the saltwater baths, that's $10,000. And so Downer's all set to go with that work. But we had discussed previously if we could get it funded out of Transport Choices, that would free up $10,000 to be spent elsewhere. So the decision to be made about whether you want us to give Downers the go ahead or whether you want to wait a bit longer to see how we go with Transport Choices. Anything from you, Dan?
My understanding is we're not really sure where we are with the Transport Choices at the moment because of the change of government. So is that?
Yes, I can give you a bit more information on that. So we do have certainty on the money that we have secured. So we've got about 3.06 million of implementation funding secured, and that's for construction. And there's some extra money in the council annual plan on top of that. And so we have got money to do the work just completed at Old Wharf Road and also the work we're doing on Parr Street. And we've got money available to carry on. We've led a tender for the work on Tudor Street, and we've given the tender a preferred status. And the reason we've done that is so that the tenderers can know whether they've been successful or not, and those that haven't been successful can go and tender for other work. But a preferred tender, we've given them notice that we can't issue a contract until we've got some more clarity. This is on the basis that our councillors have asked us to hold off because they'd rather we did the work in the west of Motueka than the work on Tudor Street. So we've put a query into Wakikotahi, and initial guidance is that they will support us changing the scope. But it needs to go to their board.
Yeah, so that's unofficial, but it's response. That's what we're dealing with, but they needed to take it to the approval team. Whoever they are. Well, we asked for a response this week. And
Thanks. Just two questions. One, did you want community board guidance on what we think should be the priority if further money comes as to whether you get the west side or Thorpe? Did you want?
Yeah,
or is that going to go through the three councillors? Or
I'd defer to our chair there. How would you see that working?
Oh, we defer
if you've got some comments through the chair, now's the time to make comments. You would have seen the report that two board councillors have strongly said that we believe the western part was wanted by a wider part of the community, and if there was no more money, that's where we feel those priorities should be. If there's other feelings or other different feelings from the board members, then now's the time. And the other part, just to pick up on number 5 in terms of also given direction in terms of yes for Downers to do that segment that was pre-planned prior to Transport Choices, or to hold and wait. I guess my instinct is Downers are doing this as part of a community project. Best go on Downers is my preference in terms of that guidance, but it's for the board.
Continue on from that. Yes, I think the western side would much better use of funds, so I concur with that. I was just checking to see if we got something to have in it. And the other question was relates to the Downer thing. I was going to just check that Downer were going to pay for it anyhow, so it didn't matter whether it went to Transport Choices or Downers. Board won't be paying that $10,000. So again, that's fine.
So just through the chair, the board's been asked to pay for, but from the toilet block to the harbour masters thing, which is sitting in our current special projects, about $5,000. Down as part of the community donation back to the Motueka community through the relationship through the alliance was to do that other part.
Okay.
In kind.
Thank you. Yeah.
Just the only thing I guess I qualify is I haven't seen Downers design, so I don't know how their design differs from the Transport Choices design.
One would expect it would not be quite so classy.
I don't know.
Because you have a lot more money you were going to spend.
That's all.
So,
What when we had the meeting with some of the board members here a couple of weeks or a few weeks ago, we talked about, downward design is probably going to go from the end of the existing track up to about where the saltwater baths are. And we do have a design to get cyclists from there safely through the car park up to the corner of North Street and the other street that goes up. So yeah, the thinking was, if we got down to do that part, well then we could pick up the rest if good funds are approved.
yeah, thank you. I don't know if I should raise this now or wait till we get to report number 6, which is about the relocation of a bus stop. So the funds that we've currently got approved, because in the bus stop report, there is no said funding sitting there to tap into, is that correct? Or do you want me to hold off till we get to report 6?
I can answer that because so what we've done, we've asked for reallocation of the funding.
Yeah.
We've said the work in West Motueka and the bus stop as well.
Right. So in theory, the report number 6 that comes up about the relocation of a bus stop, some of this money could actually be earmarked for that to happen sooner than later.
Assuming that project board at Waikato support the recommendation.
Right. Okay. We'll continue that dialogue when we get to report number 6 then. Yeah. Thank you. You are hanging around, I guess, for that.
Yeah, yep, we'll hang around.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Any other questions or comments around? I also concur with supporting the West Side works.
Yeah, things are changing. The West Side help definitely.
Okay, that's consensus from the board that we support the 3 councillors.
Yeah. And I can also add that we're pleased to have our first section of work open to the public and operational, and got some really good feedback. So
this is the recreation centre.
Yeah, that's right.
I've made down that, but positive. And did you want to move? Did you want to talk about the bus stop?
There's an agenda item for that specifically.
This one. Okay. Oh, okay, sorry.
Is there a, how do you suggest we frame a decision in this kind of stuff, Mr. Manners? In an information report, now what's the decision? Very good question. Maybe through the chair, the guidance is that that's a yes. Proceed with the others. Is that what I'm hearing?
Around the saltwater baths?
Yeah.
Board members. Yeah. Happy with that, Emma? Thank you.
Where does that opinion go? Sorry.
Right there. Yeah. It gets recorded and it goes right in.
And does that activate downers?
No, it's an information report, so we can't make a decision in an information report. So if you wanted to, you could call for a decision report to come back. And then there's a formal decision which goes off. I think noting this, we might achieve it.
But through the chair, the decision was already made on the 16th of May. So follow through.
It's just us support endorsing what's.
We don't want staff to do another.
Yeah.
No,
Ching,
that-
ching.
not at all. That's why if we record it in the minutes, we've got that endorsement.
Yep. Or fantastic. Is there anything else from you two gentlemen? Thank you. So.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So I'm here to talk about the Wallace Street bus stop, seeking a resolution from the community board just to support its preferred position for a bus stop, so that go through the next step, which is to ask the full council to formalise that through the traffic control devices bylaw schedule. So I'm happy to take the report as read and answer any questions.
That's I've had some dialogue with John Murphy from the Smart Listening Centre, from the staff there, and it has proved to be, as you know, a bit of an issue. So, yeah, I'm happy to support it 100% to move.
Okay, so we received the report, and so we want a decision. Shifted to location outside Motueka Library. So are you saying you moved that on your behalf?
So option 1, move bus stop to outside library is recommended, item 6.2.
Else is 8.2.
Page 10. Are we on like page 23 to 20? Yeah, so page 23. So we're just receiving this report and approving the bus stop to be shifted outside the location of the Library. Yep. So moved by Board Member Hart, seconded by Board Member Armstrong. All those in favour?
Aye.
Anyone against? Carried. So when does it go to full council? Sorry, Jamie.
The next opportunity is 14th of December, I think is the last council meeting for this year. So yep, all going well, we can get on that agenda. Yeah, it's going to take some money to actually make the change. We don't have a budget committed and available at the moment, so I can't give any sort of time frame.
Thank you.
Thanks. My last.
Through you, Chair. So obviously I've just asked that question of the Transport Choices team. So the money that we have been allocated, knowing that we have concerns with where our bus stop currently is and the health concerns that come with that, are we able to repurpose some of that money to speed up the bus stop being moved?
I think Rob has given kind of the best answer that we have, which is we're recommending to Waka Kotahi that they allow us to change the scope of the implementation funding. You know, looking at it from my perspective, improving the public transport facility out here on Wallace Street lines up totally with what Waka Kotahi are trying to achieve, what the government were trying to achieve with that funding, which is to improve the likelihood of people choosing various modes of transport, providing a bit of equity. So I think it's got a good chance, and yeah, we just cross our fingers and everything that yeah, a good answer.
Can I just comment?
You go.
Because there is a requirement for a 4-week consultation with the traffic control device bylaw before we take it to council, which would mean I probably wouldn't get there until February meeting.
I can talk to that maybe. So what's happened already through this process and asking the community board to give its view is part of that consultation process. So I guess the decision really rests with the councillors around the full council table as to whether they would be prepared to pass a resolution to move the bus stop. But given, in my experience, the process that's been gone through here and the discussions that have been had would fit the bill for the expectations around consultation. So I'd say it's got a good chance.
So point of clarification, Bullet, if we cross our fingers and line all our ducks up, we could have it at full council on the 14th of December, not February.
Correct.
Yep. Thank you. Good answer. That's what we want to hear.
Thank you, Jamie.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
I think that's all of our presentations. No, sorry.
One last
They're on my list, sorry, apologies.
Tēnā koutou rangitirama, ko Nixon Tokongoa, ko te kaiwhakahari ratonga taonga. Those that don't know me, my name's Nixon. I'm the manager of enterprise and property services. So here to talk about a proposal to carry out an options report and consultation on grazed land in the Moutere Inlet. This was proposed some months ago and approved by council, subject to approval by the community board. The area concerned has been grazed for many years. There's been a lot of inquiries about it as a dog park, for residential, for a Masonic lodge, and before we extended the grazing contract, we felt it was prudent to find out what community wanted to do with this property, which is becoming quite valuable. It's coastal, very central, and we proposed to council spending $60,000 from the Motueka Harbour and Works Fund to fund an options report and consultation. How we came to 60,000 was a guess, really. It was what a consultation on the zoning of Motueka Harbour had cost recently, and I guess that set the benchmark. So I'll take the paper as read, and any questions?
We got an updated report this afternoon by email. I just see, and I haven't had a chance to read it yet, so.
The updated report was a request for, we revised the policy. The paper has been delayed for some months, mainly because there were questions around the Harbour Works policy. And so we've had our legal team revise it. And we had a request for a tracked changes copy of that policy to be presented.
So my second question is, this report that you're requesting to do is for what, the future use of the land?
Correct, yes.
So it won't cover subdivision and house building or anything, will it?
I think it'll basically indicate what the preferred options are for the land and whether it's residential or is it park or a Masonic lodge or dog park, whatever. It'll give council an indication of what's the preferences for this piece of land.
Okay, I have a problem sitting here with that talking, because we just had to relocate the proposal for the swimming pool from the rec centre across the road up to the other side of High Street, way out of the possible flooding, coastal inundation thing that was reported. And this land is the same height, if not lower, than the rec centre land and that area there. So that's why I'm saying that any residential situation is basically kicked a touch before we even start, because you can't have one rule for one and one rule for another in my world anyway.
Correct, yep. Nor would it be used for industrial as well, I'd say.
Member Hughes.
My concern, I'm going to get myself in trouble here. I don't like robbing from the port fund, anything to do with the port. Okay, I take it it's coming from there, is it? What was it I read?
The Harbour Works.
Harbour Works.
Yep.
Well, shouldn't it go to sorting out the harbour before anything else? Might be naive, but
this work that we're doing aligns with what the Harbour Works Fund requires us to do, which is improvements along the Motueka Harbour.
Well, I could think of some better improvements along the Motueka Harbour than some land, but sorry, this hasn't got my backing.
Through you, Madam Chair, just perhaps a little bit of
background to give some context to assist the board in its decision making this afternoon. The fund is the Motueka Harbour Coastal Works Reserve Fund. So it's been around for a number of years, since 2012. The fund is available to do works within the area defined within the policy, which is not just the harbour, it actually covers up the coastal areas. The driver for wanting to do this piece of work was actually to move away from a piecemeal approach to the area that's referred to in Mr. Chin's report. So at the moment, piecemeal development occurs, or piecemeal decisions get made around that area. What the driver of this is, can we have an overall plan that looks at the future of the whole area? And therefore there is a level of alignment between the developments that may or may not occur. It's an opportune time for the board and the community to have input in saying, well, we want to use this area for X. And that's not defined yet. And so I think it's a key piece of work to inform future decision making, and it's a key piece of work to ensure that we have a coordinated approach. So all the pieces of the puzzle fit together for the future, rather than have what we've got at the moment, which is a number of piecemeal decisions that were made in isolation over a number of years. It's just to assist the board in terms of why would we go and spend this money to do this. It's to achieve better outcomes in the future and to have a more coordinated and strategic approach to how development or reuse or current use of the land is actually actioned.
When you refer to piecemeal, totally understand that. Has there been any historic work done in the area of looking at land use overall?
Through Madam Chair, no, not overall. So that's one of the challenges that brought about this particular proposal was the lack of an overall plan for the area. This is similar to some of the work that was done for Mapua, for example, to get a much more strategic approach to the precinct there, in terms of how does the waterfront park integrate with the council's developments and what's happening with the open space down there. So same sort of approach. We brought it over to Motueka and said, actually, this is a good approach to try and deal with development. It also allows you to deal with the tensions that may arise between one use versus another use consistently, and then have a plan moving forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I echo Barry's comments, and so my question is, have you talked to the planning team about what you could potentially do on this land? And have you had any pushback or restrictions in terms of their beliefs of what could be built, if anything, in that area? Because the advice we've had to date is nothing around that area, which is quite amazing when you see a car shed going at the front part of it. But so have you talked to the consenting and planning team to see if there's actually any opportunity to build anything physical in that piece of land?
There's been no formal communication with the planning team. We're just seeking an options report of what we could potentially do with it. The northern part of the reserve has a motor caravan park. We want to extend their property, which was one of the catalysts for us looking at whether there was a suitable purpose for that reserve. Southern end of the Greys Reserve has actually been used as a tip for many years, and so there's been as Mike was saying, a fragmented approach to this reserve. Perhaps the simplest option is we just keep grazing it for another 10 years. And
the second question is, where do we sit with grazing so close to a coastal area in terms of just, I struggle with that as well, but I'd be hesitant for the feasibility to be done before the team has had an absolute conversation with our consenting department in terms of advice that we've had for other projects. So you could go and get a hold of concepts and ideas and then hit consenting and planning and going. I fundamentally question grazing so close to that coastal area. But while you raise the grazing, without going into the commercial parts, is is the nominal fee that's paid for grazing in line with a fee from the Motor Home Association? Is it in this similar nominal fee, or would it be?
No, it's true, Madam Chair. The motor home, I think, pay about 11,000 a year or around that vicinity. It's a peppercorn rental to the grazier. And just to respond to your other questions, consultation will of course include planning team. They'll need to indicate what we can or can't do there. But really, I guess it's a chicken and egg. If we have some money, we can do something. If not, we'll just maintain its status quo.
Yes, through the chair. My question would still be, surely in defining scope, wouldn't you first talk with somebody in technical planning in terms of the scope of what may or may not be? Or are we expecting a consultant to talk to our planning team externally to see what we can and can't do? Just because you would be well aware of the journey that finding land for a recreational facility has been through, and every bit we've found we've gone.
Through you, Madam Chair. I think the rationale for the approach is we need to bring all of the pieces of this puzzle together. That's what this report is intended to do. If we continue as we have in the past, then we'll just see piecemeal developments, and we may not get the better outcomes for our community in terms of what we may be able to use that land for other than grazing. And it may well inform decisions about whether or not, for example, the Motor Caravan Association Park is the best use. And that would feed into what might happen at the end of their lease period. So the coming to the end of the grazing leave was a catalyst to say, actually, we need to go back and look at this area as a whole. What we're saying in this report is, in order to do that job properly, we need to fund that investigation. Of course, it will involve talking to the planners. It will also involve looking at the impacts of climate change on what you might do with that land. And so without having the funding available, we're unable to do that work, and the land will sit as it is at the moment, and we are not likely to be able to move it forward, or perhaps will likely achieve a better outcome for the community. Hence the staff support for doing the study to inform outcomes so that we can get board endorsement ultimately for the developments that will occur in that area. Or it may well be that there is very limited development, but at least it's been examined properly and you've got information to turn your mind to in making that decision.
Got two questions from the board, but before I go to them, just following from Councillor Della and Councillor Maru's concerns, my understanding was that the climate change stuff was looked at already from council, which is the reasoning why the pole option was not viable.
In terms of overall, yes, but it's still an ongoing program of work. So when you are looking, say, what could I use this space for in the future? You'd probably say, well, actually, no, swimming pool's not a built infrastructure, might not be it, but what other uses might it be put to, and for what period of time? So it's not like council has put millions of dollars into investigating its response to climate change. Some of that work is embedded into existing programs, just like it'll be embedded into this study if we actually get approval to proceed with it.
I could just add to that too. I guess a couple of years ago, we were asked to shift the cattle fences so that the Beautification Society could move their planting into the grazed area. So that's a likely opportunity for development to extend the park area, adjacent park area.
So just ask one thing. So Nick, are you proposing to amend your proposed resolution on item 2, recognising that for council tomorrow is to change the policy? Because I asked for those track change because the policy is in front of council tomorrow. So if the board decides to, would be preempting a policy change, or granting a fund, preempting council's change to policy tomorrow, which seems a little bit awkward.
officer advice would be that changes proposed for the policy tomorrow are more of a clarification of the existing policy. There was some concern about the area the policy actually applied to.
Word in the map.
Yeah, word in the map. And so it's a clarification of the policy as opposed to a significant change to the policy. I think that would be within the board's power to support the recommendation from the officers, given that it resides on a interpretation of the existing policy. It's not pre-exempting an outcome of the council meeting tomorrow, which is more of a tidy up resolution to prevent a level of confusion moving forward.
Board Member Armstrong, then Hughes, then Councillor.
Carry on.
Yep.
I may be considered very naive by 3 councillor members regarding whether your departments talk with each other and whether a report could go ahead without consultation within your own departments. I have naively have confidence that you will do that, and that would be part of. I assume that would be part of your future options rather than just going away and having a group that would be working on that. So with that in mind, and given what you were talking about with Councillor Maru just a moment ago, which I don't fully understand, I'm prepared to move this, if that's an amendment, or just move it as the understanding you've already said. I'm prepared to move that recommendation.
Board Member Hughes.
Haven't we got staff that can take care of this sort of thing instead of paying a consultant? We've got all the expertise here in the planning department. And as for ideas for the land, well, we've already got people living in caravans just up the top end. There's a number of ideas that come to mind, especially in view of the fact it's quite low lying. $60,000 is a lot of money to pay somebody else to tell us what we should do with the land. Can't we work that out ourselves? Sorry, once again, naive maybe, but
It's through Madam Chair. I guess because it's coastal and the area has been occupied for hundreds of years, probably it's bound to be significant to mana whenua, and I would agree. I would prefer that we could just use our own staff to do that consultation. My suspicion, especially after the Motueka Harbour consultation, is actually going to be a lot more complex than anticipated. There isn't that much land within Motueka region that's used for passive grazing. In fact, it's the only piece, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of interest.
Just a point of clarification on the map in your email that came through this afternoon. There's a green line that goes all the way down, and it's a Tasman Environment Plan, environment extent. So how much of that area do you think this revamped thing that we're talking tomorrow may include in that? Will it encompass all that land that's shown there behind that green line, or what?
Yes, one of the areas of contention with the old policy was, what did we mean by coastal? So the original plan had a highlighted line that ran around the high tide mark. As you're mostly aware, the council does not actually own any land below the high tide mark. The words in the policy referred to the coastal region, and essentially what we did was align this policy with what's in the TRMP, and that green line is the coastal region.
Well, you had a bit of a fight in the end, because half my land that I've just bought sits within that zone. You ain't getting your hands on that. But anyway, also my last comment is, could we, like you've talked about doing this thing with the consultant and then going out for public consultation? What I want to know is, if the consultant comes back and gives you a report that says something horrible, that you're not allowed to do a lot of stuff, would you still go out for consultation? So what I'm saying is, do you need the 60,000, or can we start you off at 20 or 30 and you come back with a report to the board and then talk about if the board's satisfied with what the consultant's saying, you can then go out for consultation. Is that feasible or not?
Coming back for scope of works is definitely feasible, and with the price around implementation, yes, is feasible.
Leave it to the board. I'll step back because I've got a conflict of interest because I own the land that you're going to agree.
I'd like to introduce Hughes Consultancy Services.
Through Madam Chair, just to clarify for the board members, the area indicated on the map in the revised policy going to council tomorrow effectively is the area that the funds could be expended within. So it's not a council's going to take that area. It's saying what area can we spend these funds on? It's that coastal area and it's designated. So some of that area will be private land, some of it will be publicly owned land. It's simply indicating if you're going to spend funds, then you can do them anywhere within that line, which was the purpose of the map, not to indicate that you would or council would interfere with private property rights or anything like that. It's just where can we do work? That's the area we can do work in. Councillor Walker.
Well, they actually dictated what colour we could paint the house.
Really got a terrible colour choice, Barry.
That was my wife. She's going to make it.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. I'm mindful that I've had a conversation with Mr. Ogilvie, who was once a councillor, who was very passionate about this and has held us to account when we've tried to repurpose that money incorrectly. My understanding is, due to his health, he can't be here today, but he has had some dialogue. Has his dialogue been taken into account, and has he had feedback with regards to what this proposal is and what we're doing with our 60 supposedly K?
The feedback from Mr. Ogilvie was catalyst for us reviewing policy. I met with him last week and gave him a copy of the proposed policy. He's responded. He has, and his concerns are really around, he would like to see the money in the Motueka Harbour Works invested rather than spent on things like consultation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There is something staring us in the face here. So I just mention it. We have a housing crisis. It's low land. We've already started it with the Motorhome Association. I mean, I know I'm going to get shot down from somewhere, but I've done quite a bit of work for people living in caravans, and I'm talking the high-end ones. They rent out their houses or they whatever, and so they live in various Motorhome Association parks. That's what they do. And so they've got these people living at the top end. Why can't we have people living elsewhere, organise a lease? It's certainly an option, something to be looked into.
Well, it's one of the options that we basically would expect to see proposed.
That's 10K.
Thank you.
I ducked out of the room before with the man from the AA to talk about the treatment plan. As I was leaving the room, he said, "Oh, you guys are talking about the land down by the Motor Caravan Association Park there this afternoon." He said, "My wife's the secretary of that organisation. They've just been confirmed that out of the 57 Motor Caravan Association sites, the same as this is the 10th busiest and the 10th top performing financially." So he said, "We'd really like it doubled in size, and we might be the number 5, right up there towards the top." He said, "That's how popular this area is."
It's just the woodlands. So that I'm saying, just because resolution here, because of a resolution of council providers. So from a council perspective, you've seen the council resolution seeking the board's approval. So I think fairness, and we had to go with this. That's why I see it.
We're voting.
You are.
I'm against it.
Secondly, yes.
Yes, so, Board Member Armstrong, you are happy to move as is? Yeah, have we got a seconder for? No. Okay. And then
French taking over.
Some support to the.
Yeah, well, absolutely. It fails.
before I move on, sorry.
Sorry, Madam Chair, perhaps some assistance if that entire resolution is want to fail for want of a seconder. I suggest you move the resolution in part so the board can receive the report and may well then not approve an allocation of funding, but it would be useful to have the board note that it's received the report.
Absolutely, yep, and advice.
Yep.
That we can- Someone else, propose
In the resolution.
amend the resolution. So first of all, the board moves that we support. Yeah, over. No, so I move and Board Member Hutton second, all in favour, and then there's one. Propose, yeah. So, Board Member Hunt's proposing on this of up to the consultation.
I was just going to assist with the wording perhaps for that amendment. The 30,000 is fine, but I would probably say to develop an initial future options report to support consultation for. So that you're indicating you're doing this initial work to prepare information for consultation. Though I saw a theme coming through that you wanted to know more about what those options were before you went out and spent money on consultation. Just trying to find a way forward with the board.
Oh, I'm sorry, I've had 4 years of being told by council exactly what you can and cannot do with your property, and here we are wanting to pay a consultant what we can and can't do with the land. Sorry, I think we have experts here and we get them to say, this is what you can and cannot do with that land. Then decide whether or not we go to consultants. Sorry.
Are we quite honest, the staff physically haven't got time?
No, that's what I was gonna say, yeah. Who's gonna do it? It's down to they're busy enough.
Mate, you don't know,
Plenty of time, they've got plenty of time to sort out a number of things I've been seeing as a waste of time.
I'm saying you, with the long-term plan and the scenario that we're going through at the present, with the possible new government coming in, they haven't got the time.
Okay, all right, so,
At least with the 30,000, we can get some movement.
okay. Begrudgingly then,
Plus-
I will second it.
Plus it becomes as an independent advice.
Yeah. There we go.
So Board Member Pat has moved in, you are seconding. Member Hughes.
Yep, there we go. I'm being a team member.
Member Armstrong. Do you support?
Vote.
Yeah, well, it's just you and me.
Oh, okay. Oh, well, you say four. I'll say four.
Okay, I'm against. So it's moved.
Passed.
I'll abstain.
Oh, sorry. I just thought 3 councillors abstained because you said that you 2 are the ones that pushed it back. Oh, apologies. Sorry, up to you.
So you still put it to the vote, I think you move to the second, it doesn't, don't vote.
The councillors.
No.
We've all voted
board-
now. Board's voted.
Oh, my apologies, I didn't hear you to vote, I just heard to talk about first, moving into.
Managed to capture that. Remember, yeah, all the councillors. Councillor Daly, you're abstaining. Yeah.
Sorry, bring down, Madam Chair, I think I heard Councillor Hughes have been 3-2. Gary.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your report and proposal. So I'm gonna hand back to, I'm gonna hand back to Councillor Madu just to wrap us up because I've been sitting in here for a wee while, so it's back to you. I always get this.
Oh, we're in the 8.4. Let's whiz through this. 8.4.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're on page 42.
Board member Grant.
8.4. Right, do you want to
So where are we, sorry?
so we're page 42, 8.4. Oh, we've got about 20 minutes. Okay, so in terms of on here, was there an update in terms of the TRMP workshop that you had? Is there anything you want to formally discuss, follow up?
And there is going to be a fair bit of work before we can provide something to board, but there has been some very concerning correspondence come through, which I'm going to have to deal with separately to this. We're going to carry on with what Tarina was saying, but I in a nutshell, a vehicle becomes a building after 8 weeks if you live in it. It becomes a building / structure. I won't get into how wrong all that is, in my opinion, but how do you prove that? How do you prove that someone is living in something? There's 2 ways that I can see, and I have seen it done, is that you get talking to the people. And by the way, this piece of legislation is, in TDC's own words, a discrete piece of legislation. People don't know about it as a rule. So they get asked the question, oh, how long have you been here? It looks nice. Oh, 3 years. Thank you very much. We'll come back and talk to you. And then they get a, by your own admission, you have been living in this. That's one way. The other way, if you're not talking, has to be surveillance. I can't see any other way. Surveillance could be reinterpreted as multiple visits. How many multiple visits?
I guess my question is there something formal that the board wants to progress?
Yes, but I'm
pausing and coming back.
That is something that I'm going to have to deal with separately, because I want to work positively to change the legislation, in which case I hand over to.
So just trailing back, so the meeting was attended by Member Hughes, Armstrong and myself, along with staff member Mr. Humphreys and Mr. Butler.
Yep,
And it was
Jeremy.
a very positive, productive, informative meeting. And we heard from both sides around concerns and reasoning for how things come about.
from there was a few suggestions, and the one that I've put back to the elected board members, it was around maybe working towards putting a submission in from the board or individuals if the board do not agree with the long-term plan with an amendment to the rule, so then it's not a standalone, because that would give us 6 months to engage with the community as well to see what's.
So just for clarity in terms of consultation period post the LTP being written, it's really good to forefront that document. So members that have been on this table know the amount of work to amend that document once it's in draft. But yeah, that's what has come out, and you want to concentrate on the time and talk, then that's the outcome.
That was a staff suggestion of an option that.
Did you get any indication around omnibus plan changes and words and things like that from Jeremy?
Oh,
No. Okay. So just pick it up in here. So at this stage, formally, there won't be anything from the board. There's still some more discussions to come, and your timeline you're sort of looking at is pre-consultation for LTP. Yeah. And number 4, you're going to have to help me with, because I've had a couple of emails in terms of how much we talk about the letter. I think you had a public forum as well.
right.
So maybe if you can help me, Deputy Chair. So the letter's been received.
Yep.
Does the board wish to respond to the letter? And if so, what part and what? So that's why it's on this agenda. Yep. Mr. Hughes.
I have, in my email, I've suggested we allow the council to complete the works at Peach Island before taking care of any of the other parts. However, Mr. Hellier's letter, as he clarified there, he has some other issues, which is to do with correspondence between him and council. So that's perhaps what and he's asked us to take some action on that.
Okay. So should we get that at a public forum, the next step, and park the letter for now, or do you want to get that now out of the letter? Is what's been asked the contents of the letter?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, from through you, Mr. Chair. There was a couple of comments that Mr. Hellier made with reference to having informational comments expunged from records. And so certain records are governed by the PRA, the Public Records Act, so we can't remove them unless it's part of an established disposal schedule. And so that gets a little bit more complicated, because then you need to look at
what are we talking about? So it's just a document that's been
comments were made by staff.
Government rules, right?
Yep. Yes. So then we need to have a look at what form those comments were made in, whether or not it was if it's a verbal thing, then you can't expunge it from the record because it's not there. But depending on which document something might have been recorded in, depends whether or not we're able to remove it. So the board may wish to make a request that we review the documentation that we've got between Mr. Hellier and the staff members concerned to find out which items, if any, are covered by the PRA and what our obligations are underneath Public Records Act. Underneath the Public Records Act, because that will limit the extent to which we can remove things from the record.
Right. So, Councillor Walker.
Yeah. So, because you weren't here, Mr. Chair, it was about the wording. My understanding of the ongoing fantasies created. So, I certainly would like to have that reviewed. So, whether we pass something to have that done, like Mr. Manners has just shared, I would endorse that happening.
What you just said, and maybe still not a big statement, but after. But what I'm understanding is you want to, it's a request to have them removed and withdrawn, or is a request to have acknowledged and apologise?
Both.
Right. Okay, so that's a request.
So it was an apology and a requirement to please expunge from the council record. And it's the second, but I can't speak to apologies. That's a conversation that needs to happen with the staff members concerned. But in terms of the records, we need to find out what any information may or may not be included and in what type of records before we can determine whether or not things can be removed from the record. That's not a trivial enterprise. To go through and do that, I have to say.
So in the interim, perhaps if I look to my left and right and front, ahead and around, is at this stage, is the board happy to acknowledge that the work of Mr. Hellier, Mr. Stevens, Mr. Hughes, not Board Member Hughes, Mr. Hughes, Councillor Walker and some others have resulted in identifying a problem that council are currently now remedying with the landowners, and we acknowledge that publicly is the first step. I guess I'm just, is that part of the way to acknowledging that actually there's a lot of things discovered, said, there was a lot of coming back from throne, there was some statements that were made that have caused some anguish from members of the community, but the reality is the input of all parties has resulted to date in a positive outcome for the landowners, thanks to the work of all those involved. Okay, if we capture that as the first stage, do you think that's going to be one part of a public record that helps to start?
I would like just to leave the Peach Island affair.
I really carefully didn't mention Peach Island. But I know that's where it is. But if the reference you're referencing to one of the staff members and those words are absolutely relating to Peach Island, because I've read it and seen it and heard it several times. So if the board has some comfort about simply acknowledging that actually, however we got here by concerns from different members of the community, supported by different elected members, and there seems to be some positive outcomes for the most important people, the landowners. Yes or no? I'm just trying to.
It's a bit wishy-washy. I don't know. It's a bit.
So what would you like to say?
I would like to discuss it next month.
Well,
okay, the third. Okay, so let's park it. So 5.1 is just to confirm, and you would be aware that the land purchase has been made for a site that will accommodate a pool for Motueka. Number 6,
so just a quick question. I've been asked a number of times, how much has council paid? And I've said, sorry, I'm not saying anything. That's good.
Published information.
Yeah, okay, that's good. I understood that, but just in case everyone has, I don't know.
So just for clarity, Mr. Spence, I thought the RFC's part gets released once the so that's part of that. So that figure I believe got released as soon as the purchase was completed. So if that's the case, if it does get released, if board members are just confirmed, and you'll know that if you've got a good memory, the piece out of the RFC part. And I can't tell you what it was. So if you've got a good memory, you'll know.
No, I'm happy to just keep my mouth shut.
I thought it was released once the purchase was taking place. Board member Armstrong.
I was just gonna add that I think the Golden Bay community will be very happy to hear this, and I think you'll get a lot of support from Golden Bay when the pool gets built. So keep that in mind. Long term.
Please note that Mr. Drummond. You got to correct me about if it gets released, aren't you?
No, it's just the board.
Thank you.
Best in mind there too. The amount that's paid for a property actually goes into the public record. You can look up any property and you can see the transactions. That's there. The reason the amount was kept confidential initially was because we were in negotiations to buy a property. If you knew what council's budget was for your property, you'd hang on until you got the full budget amount. So I don't think there's any problem with providing the board just by email with the actual purchase. It was for 3 properties, 3 adjacent properties, and the breakdown of the funding for those 3 properties, which I think will be of as much interest to the board in terms of how much came from RFCs, how much was loaned, that type of information. And if the board secretary would just make a note, I'll be happy to look that information up and circulate it to board.
Great, thank you. Councillor Walker.
Thank you for that explanation, Mr. Drummond. Will there be the other side of the equation about the leases and what the revenue is of that bit of land? Or is that the part that's commercially sensitive?
The current lease terms and conditions are commercially sensitive. Council has only recently met with the lessees, obviously a conversation about our future plans for the property, timelines and the impacts that may have on their leases. So that's in the early stages of a conversation with the lessees.
Thank you.
Okay, as we go to the next item, item 6, so I'm just hoping you could minute and put in the notes either that the chair you have currently will cease to exist on about 5 minutes past, well, actually no, before that. He will cease to exist on the 18th of December 2023, which means the first item of business on the board's meeting on the 19th of December will be to elect a new board chair and potentially how that goes, a new deputy chair. So I don't need to write that down, it's in the minutes, do I? Yeah. So just in terms of the short time, it has been absolutely enjoyable, but it's also highlighted the absolute conflict you have if you sit in the seat and around the council table, because the community don't see if I'm talking as the chair of the community board, Brent, or as Councillor Murray. And so it's and to be fair, board is elected as the board, and although all the different rules say it can happen, it's been difficult to manage the conflicts that exist. So pre-warned. So that'll be the first item on the agenda of December. Any items from public forum? Councillor Dowler.
Move me out to the little room next door.
You might want to refrain.
Hey.
There's a lot of court cases that are currently taking place across.
He was totally flushed when he left.
On that room.
The map that was provided to us, I had to inform him that the black line that he had proposed to go down Chamberlain Street was the designated bypass from Motueka up until 2010. Now, when the 2010 traffic study came out, there was an indicative bypass put in for the town then. The black line, they had it land designated for the bypass. They actually bought property. In 2012, they actually sold all those properties. I looked at buying one of the properties as an investment property. That was down the end of Chamberlain Street, where it crosses College Street, wherever. No, down the next one. Anyway, and then so that disappeared off the radar. The proposed bypass in the traffic study, which is still current for 20 years, because they said within the next, they'd possibly build it within the next 20 years, is actually down Queen Victoria Street, which he shows on the map as the white line. But when you get down into Queen Victoria Street, the map in here shows it following the Queen Victoria Street extension around to the end of Paul Street. And then it heads across a paper road to the end of Parker Street. And then it heads off through the orcharding and pops out beside the Birdhurst Pack House. Now that is just the indication that's in there. So whether it ever gets built or not, I don't know. Anyway, I just had to explain to the man that, yep, great map, but unfortunately you're a bit out of date with the Chamberlain Street one because it's been sold and done and dusted, mate. You'd have to reinvent the wheel, get it all done and bought out again. Number 2 was the public forum. Shit, forgot.
Sorry, the purchases and sale reasoning around go and then for that.
Yeah, over the years, Wakakatahi or NZTA bought the land through what they thought for the bypass. It's there. And there was a house involved in it. That's what I was looking at purchasing, and 3 acres of land or something. And it went right through to the stop bank. And when they decided to can that, once they produced this other option in the 2010.
That was the reasoning for canning.
Yep.
Option there.
Yeah. And the idea was the bridge that was going to be built at the end of Chamberlain Street was 90 metres longer than the current bridge, and it was just unaffordable. So you went back to the River Road Bridge, which is 50 metres longer than the current bridge, which they still deemed that unaffordable. So they were heading back to the existing bridge, and there was an option of widening it by a metre, which we had all the engineers on site one day with the community board and councillors for the day. And that was possibly a goer, though it was $4 million, I think, to widen that bridge by a metre. Or ideally was to build a second bridge above it and have one bridge as a one-way and the other bridge as the other way, just like they did over at Brightwater. So that was the 2 options that were done on the day. But It's in there to 2030,
Still sitting there.
but I don't think the new government's probably going to fund nothing like that. So who knows?
Oh, Maureen Pugh said she was all for the bridge.
So yes, it was.
She did say she was all for the bridge.
Any other public forum?
We'll hold her to that.
What else is in the public? Something else coming up. Oh,
Ian's were mainly service requests. Weren't they?
yes, sorry, the service request email. I sent an email to the new area manager of Waka Katahi about the road surface at the Wakawera Street corner and State Highway. And his reply is, apologies, Barry, as I was driving and I've just managed to open your email now. This is about 3 minutes ago. The only works that we have scheduled in this location is for patching that needs to be done, and that will be done before Christmas. It's hot off the press.
Any other?
There was Mr. Forey about the access of drives, which is another, is that particularly another service request? Yeah.
Yep, it is.
That's another rock.
Board member Hurst.
The Shakers rates emissions, which intertwined with issues I've had, and I'm recommending we acknowledge their concerns. And for myself, I am thinking we need to have a workshop of something just to show some of the concerns that are being raised by people and some of the issues that are coming about from the use of legislation.
Standing orders, sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So there's two things. I'm gonna wait till we get the action list. Okay. Yeah. So workshop potentially for standing orders.
Yeah. Yeah. If I just speak openly and that's the standard.
Okay. So remind me when we get to action list about.
There was one other item in there around concerns with the complaints process, which potentially could be covered in that workshops round as well.
Right. Okay. The board's complaints process or the
Council's complaints.
Okay.
I think with the increase in cycling and encouraging pedestrians, so that it is worth looking at. Just to increase safety.
Yeah.
So that's on the Ingalls Street, Ingalls Moffat. And that is the worst one, and then Boyce and Clay.
So should the board want to go and have a look at those and agenda it through?
Yeah.
Yes, please.
So whether you go delivery or go collect it, please.
I did go.
Have a look at those and because that's because you'll miss.
So through you, Chair, Community Streets have written to Jamie McPherson, putting the request in. I guess Paul's come to us today to get some endorsement from Community Board about whether there is any leverage that we have due to the response that Jamie has given.
Perhaps the board feel about endorsing the request.
I'm all for it, I endorse it.
I can't comment because I'm part of Community Streets.
Likewise.
I oversee his contract.
Abstain.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm for.
Yep.
Yeah. Comment? Everything.
Councillor Della, are you with us?
Yep, no problem at all.
So if we just capture that in a minute.
I've actually got engineering looking at a possible speed hump down Wilkie Street at the present time, and hopefully staff will be going out talking to the residents in the near future about the feasibility of putting one in there. And we might have to look at one on Atkins Street as well.
Okay. So noted. So I think that's the public forum. The action list. So the action list, we're going to page 44. the library plaques are ongoing with, I think, board member Hart. Oh, sorry, board member Hughes.
Yeah.
So between board member Hughes, so you, so that one there is just we're now kind of doing the plaques and then get back to Mr. Ridd with the details for one to come to the library.
Well, they've finished their alterations and final proofreading is being undergone and ready to send off to the printers. And this includes the extra plaque at the library funded separately by
Well
TDC.
done, board member Hughes.
I did that with no help from nobody.
No.
What's it going away? Present. So for Councillor Walker, probably time to just restate the desire to have Kia Saho stuff back here.
Yes. So we had the AGM last night, both myself and the chair attended. They're very keen to have those tonga that they did from Kia Saho placed back. Visually, noticeably accessible to our wider community. Well, currently they're stored away in a room that has now got staff operating in down at the service centre. So can we please prompt John Ridd to relook at the location of said gifts? Thank you.
In one, it's just the schedule to meet with
Quite good to meet them sooner than later. Hence, we've had some talking about Scott Sutherland.
Being Councillor Sutherland.
Yeah, I do. I must have. To be fair, I've had some dialogue with him recently with regards to a certain event that happened in our community, which the police have not done a great job of communicating with residents who are ringing me regularly.
So in
Yeah.
fairness, it's probably not with Community Councillor Sutherland, it's probably with.
Have some leverage with Martin, surely.
I wouldn't think that's anywhere near his position. He's a community constable.
And it affected his.
So CIB
community.
would have controlled the problems for the, so if you want me to arrange to catch up with Mr. Tunney, I did pass on my thanks to Mr. Tunney's crew who responded within 8 minutes to Lodelane the other night.
Oh.
Which was positive, very good call, very good response. So the board want to meet Marty before Christmas? Okay, let's do this round. Should we do the same with fire and ambulance? So but just for the board's information, I did attend a FENS meeting last Friday in terms of their structure set up local area committees for FENS. And they're locally appointed members of the community. In the next tranche, Nelson Tasman is in that tranche. So between Nelson, Tasman boundaries, they'll start working. So it was a skills matrix of this, the skills potential that would make up a committee like that. So that will be a community-based forum to gauge interactions with the community and FENS.
As well with that is I haven't had to ask for police presence at the Christmas parade this year. I got a phone call from the police volunteering. Adam Ramsey, who said it's really important that we have a police presence. So we're volunteering to. So that's
It's
great.
important to
Didn't
pass
even
on
have to ask.
good comments because we seem to focus on
It is. So I was really pleased with that.
Lagoima, what am I? Oh, it's ongoing, to be fair. And I think it will continue to be ongoing at the moment. That's the different questions and regarding the skydiving operations in the Motueka airport. And Mr. Ridd to inform the board of the omnibus that Scott, Mr. Humphreys was there. I think you can probably take that off because you've discussed that you're going to have a process where you're really LTP part. So if you're not omnibus parting, if you're still going to take that time, then if you haven't, it's going to sit there for 6 months otherwise.
Yeah.
So your process in terms of putting your workshop, the next workshop, the other stuff, will find its own form, I think. And in the interim, if there's something called an omnibus that pops up, we might dive on it from a, yeah. Mr. Manners, you sent an email about this.
I did.
Yep. So members would have got that. So it can come off. Friendly town signs.
Yes, so the update on that is the NZ Motor Camper Van Association are happy to provide some funding if we go into partnership with our town and TDC and NZNCA to pay for the signs. They were thinking A4 or A3 metal signs to go on TDC approved boards. So we'll have to see which ones we're allowed to put them on. And I'm just waiting on a quote to come back from image creators for some pricing.
They say TDC that
Well, yeah, it would be, yeah, but TDC still have to be, Steve Elkington will still have to be
So it's not something you get in the space of the.
to the town, yeah, yeah. So we'll see what comes back.
It does beg the question if it's side streets, which are council roads, whether.
I wouldn't be voting, I mean, on a side street, just garden.
Got the entrance.
Places like this, maybe. Yep, yeah, you're right.
You've got near the eyesight and.
40 trenches. Littering on the way, that's no.
Yeah.
The belly.
Yeah, it's okay. Yep, so it's a process. Rubbish bin lids.
I'm waiting for an update through you, Chair. I have had a conversation with Lynn and I'm waiting for you to come back to me with the quote.
All the colour liners. Oh, look for quite arithmetics, yeah.
Yeah.
And the next one can come off because that's finished at Old Wharf Road. And you can probably take the next one off, the transport choices one. Oh, street bus, yeah, that can come off. Mr. Drummond's here, so that can come off because that's about to happen. And this is the action item. So that final action item on the code of conduct. So I have had a discussion with Democracy Services and I've put it off till post-December when there's a new chair elected. So the preferred is to get in. What's his name? He did training, governance training in here.
No, not Lee.
No, he was external.
Or something.
Steve Walsh. Yeah, all one of that team to come in and work through code of conduct. So it'll also be a good opportunity to, when that's arranged, to add in standing orders and complaints procedure. So for all those three, there'll be an external facilitator, and they'll work through the board in terms of establishing those documents.
Steve Walsh was the guy who did the initial
Who was the
training at the
Scotsman?
start of the training. Don't know that, I don't.
We had a workshop with
Governance.
Erwin.
And we've also had, in my time, we've had a lady ring in from somewhere as well. So that's to come. And I believe that Golden Bay are going to proceed and do these and yeah. Yes.
So regarding the code of conduct, so is that going to be an official code of conduct workshop?
So your workshop, it's just for the Motueka board. So the Golden Bay board, I believe, has decided to do these separately. And so the Motueka board will do these separately, and you'll have an external facilitator for that.
So that unfortunately will be a little bit too late, really, won't it?
That timing is partly down. There was some pressure to try and get a date for me about 3 weeks ago. So Elaine come and saw me, but in terms of you guys getting to do that, and it's Christmas. No, they're going to come to you as soon as the next meeting's been, and they'll arrange a date. Dr. Mitchell's has been done, sure. Which can be referred Dr. Mitchell's business staff and best to respond. I'm not sure, but I have a feeling that may have been responded to because I saw another one back. Yeah. And Steve Richards, and I've seen a report from Steve that he got as well. So receive the chair's report, move, seconded, Walker, all in favour, all right? I'd never it on there, because I said really quickly, we've got 15 minutes. Have you got something?
Yeah, just Nolan from the Little Cart.
No, we'll pick that up in Mr. Drummond's presentation. We're
Great.
going to look at the budget. So it's a Litica project
As well, yeah.
Yep, so we'll pick it up then. Yep. Well, you might want to acknowledge that he is retiring.
Well, I have got here, do we do a thank you and acknowledgement from TDC, but we'll talk about it.
So publicly in the minutes, let's recognise Nolan's role as the Litica operator.
Retires on Friday, 24th, is that Friday? Yeah. So after many years of service, so we'll probably organise a little open thing at the spring or something, you know, I'll let you know.
What we could, how many years, Claire?
Sorry?
How many years?
Oh, we'll have to find out. Good Lord, 15?
So you could through Robin see if Claire would be interested in giving him a meal combination award. So if you,
Yeah, I'll check how long. Yeah, yeah.
Probably the first time I was on community board, so that was 2004 to 2007 on. So when he kicked off, I think that's when Bob Cook got the letter card in.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly, but it's round about then anyway, long time.
The other thing, just for information, is there's a wharf restoration committee through Keep Motueka Beautiful, and Isabel Mosley has said to just put a note down on the committee. Working with the.
Let through this, Mr. Manners. So in the just update the delegations registered to board member Hutt's, the board representative on the what committee? The Wharf Restoration Committee, if the board's happy with that. So the board member's happy.
Under Keep Motueka, or is it a whole different group of people?
Different group. They're sort of leading it, but it's working with the historical.
Board member Armstrong.
My understanding of the delegations are for ongoing groups that now have a long history, whereas this one is a project which hopefully will complete within a few years. It might be a bit different to all the other ones. It'll just be a matter of acknowledging that board member Hutt is.
Unless Mike's aware, but it might be that if it's for the term of the board, then it's appropriate to put it on the delegations register.
So if you're sitting there as board member Hutt, then it needs to be endorsed by the board. If you're just there as Claire. So then, Mr. Drummond?
Stephen's correct.
Yeah.
It needs to be formally recognised and recorded because you are there as a board member as opposed as in a private capacity.
Just Councillor Dillon.
Question.
You're just going to say,
If they want some money, how does that work? Because they won't be an individual incorporated society. They'll be part of the Keep Motueka Beautiful society or what?
So I think that will be for them. But
setting up the trust, I believe.
Right.
So on Friday.
When there's a group around the Motueka Wharf Restoration Project, board member Hutt's been invited as a board member on that board. Is board happy that you sits there as board member? Yep.
So once you get it formed, you better give me a ring and I'll talk to you about something.
Thank you. Yeah.
Lots of funding.
Yeah, Graham, moved, so carried, thank you.
Can I just one more thing, sorry. The dog bylaw review, because there's been a lot of it on social media, so I just wanted to bring everyone what I've heard. So, and I've spoken to dog control at TDC and had a really good conversation with them. So basically it's out now for expressions of interest to put forward your feedback in March, ready for implementation in September. So the general impression is TDC would like the beaches to be shared with dogs and humans. So there's a lot of, there's two anti-dogs on beaches groups that are very loud. So in order for it to be a fair consultation, we are like to encourage people that actually do like dogs to put their submissions through as well.
So we isn't.
Well, no, I'm just telling you what the general, if anybody asks you, that is.
So the board also will be able to consult on the cats bylaw and the dogs bylaw. So the board as a whole can do that. You can go and.
Yeah.
And the moorings at Kaiteri Tere and any other bylaw.
You can go and create discussion on that and have to absolutely be very careful that it's everything you hear and.
Sorry, the reason I've brought it up.
Determined.
Yeah, no. The reason I brought it up is because I got back off holiday.
Yeah.
And I was told that TDC are banning all dogs from all beaches. That's why I investigated it, and I said, "What?" I haven't.
So just one little bit of information.
So
Don't
that's
read news on
incorrect.
social media. So read it in the council minutes. Or
I was told.
maybe the newspaper. I'm not sure. But
told.
council minutes is a good place. But also in terms of from a board perspective, be very, very careful what you post socially, personally. Because it may jade the reflection of the impartiality. But absolutely the board can do that, and certainly I'd be surprised if you're not doing cats if you're doing dogs. Back Councillor Walker.
Just a quick note, in the previous special projects, we had those concrete barbecue tables put down at the Mott River, and it was reported some time ago about the damage to one. Can we please just record that Mr. Ogilvy has been in touch with the person who built them, and he has gifted his time to fix up and retain it so it's safe and reinstate it as it was. And I can't tell you the gentleman's name, sorry, I'm exhausted moment.
I did, sorry, through you, the chair, get a response from staff. I'm not sure if all community board was commenting on that, but because that was a community board project, it was not built into any maintenance.
That's right. So
TDC.
Mr. Ogilvy took it upon himself because it was his project that he was allocated.
So that's very generous.
Also raises the issue of moving forward with projects that
Absolutely.
need maintenance.
And actually, when we come to Mr. Drummond's piece, there's a line in the board's budget that is for ongoing maintenance towards the statue thing, the mural, or what that thing at the boat. It's a budget line. in the board thing.
Departures?
Yes. So absolutely, in terms of if the board builds something, don't necessarily assume that council are maintaining it or replacing it. But anyway, I've moved to second. We have a second of that before we've moved on. So what would be helpful, depending on your new chair, is that items from board members early, rather than on, because otherwise we were not going to finish here by 6:30. But we're doing pretty well. 8.5, you've got it. It's tabled. The financial report moved by Gordon Armstrong, seconded by. I can't hear you. Oh, Deputy Chair Graham. Any discussion? Any questions?
Yes. I wasn't sure whether I'd missed something, but there's normally training, but I couldn't see it in there. I didn't have the glasses with me. And I was looking at it earlier. There's something in the training budget that we've been discussing about what we're going to use it for, and it seems to have dropped off.
I'm not sure why it's dropped off the report. I've got a more detailed report for our conversation on the budget report. I'll just check this following the meeting. I'll make a note to follow up with staff. It would be unusual for it to have dropped out of the budget. It's more likely to be a formatting error with the report.
And thank you. And also, just as well, it's not a big change, but with Nolan retiring, there'll be a pro rata invoice coming to the PDC, so it won't be 4,348. It'll be less than that, maybe £3,000 for a partial year. Yeah.
Okay, so noted. Any other questions, comments? All those in favour, aye. Yes, carried. We're going to get it. Mike's going to get that information.
Minutes will record that I've undertaken to check the report.
I take it that it's been recorded by. Bez. It's recorded. Okay, special projects. Is there? I'm looking around.
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah.
Strange.
You're still awake over there.
Yeah, but I let them stay with questions and debate. That's what,
How's the basketball court going? That's what I want to know.
all right. So let's start with what you want to tell us, Tony, and we'll fill up the gaps, whatever's left.
Oh, through the chair, I'm here representing Parks and Reserves, and hopefully I'm gonna be able to answer the questions on behalf of my colleagues, but the first one that I really only care about is Dex Reserve, of course, but no. Just only slight bit of progress with there, apart from doing a lot of work around behind the scenes and getting quotes and evaluating contractors. I was made or someone contacted me from the disabilities group, Nelson, who want to evaluate our little design. And that's also feeding into another project that Steve Richards is doing. We're also putting together another accessible playground in Richmond. So we're going to start using, some really good information from those advisory groups. So that's about it with Dex at the moment. There's not much more. We are still going to try and see if we can find a little bit more money to maybe do a basketball hoop. But I guess I wanted to say that, if money is tight, then I'll have to come back and we'll have to talk about maybe staging portions of it. But here's hoping we can do it all at once.
So we've had a number of conversations around this table about the RSC allocation and potentially the special projects balance. Now's probably the time to, is there an expectation that might be still more money from the special projects fund, either by staff or from board members, because that's going to have an impact on the discussion we go into next, Mr. Drummond.
Basketball court.
The Dex upgrade.
Yep. So how much have we?
I think you needed 600, and how much have we got?
Well, I think if we can collectively get to 600 or around there, then we'll be able to deliver the sticker.
So we're about 100 grand short.
Yeah. No, we've allocated 400.
Yeah.
So, ballpark, it's a bit of contingency in there. I think if our team can find some renewal money within our budgets for playgrounds, we're going to have to be careful because it's a region-wide fund. So we'll have to leave some, but I'll do my best to get some. But it's a hard one to say at the moment until I do get some more costs. But originally it was 700,000. It's quite chunky, but I do believe I can screw that right down to get it, around 600.
Is sorry, through the chair. Is it worth exploring like a partnership with CJs or something as a sponsorship for the concrete pad? Or
well, yes, there's opportunities that I'd like to explore. That's one of the things that I really like to do. The main area of cost is going to be the pour and play. As I said before, that's the main one. We can get some really good figures from local companies for concrete. That shouldn't be a problem. I think there'll be some desire to contribute to community, but the pour and play is where the money is going to be. So.
No.
Any questions in terms of the special projects in front of you?
I don't need to go through them by one, surely. Is there anything on those projects that you have any questions for? Because you'll see the red lines and the updates in there.
Just an update for you, talking about brackets. The flag tracks that the community board 10,000 for
tomorrow evening, Hauora are going to install the ones at Dex Reserve on the poles around here to get some up before Christmas, and then hopefully high street ones but the traffic management will be done after that. Possibly before Christmas, but at least it will be partially.
Yes, sir.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I know.
So short, Tony's come all this way, waited 2.5 hours.
Got one point that
Yes.
colleague Steve might pass on an email, that upgrade works are started on criteria side of the walkway. So we want to let you know that. Also, we're still working on the Motueka cemetery plan. I'm still to respond back to Karina or list and action. So he is going to be coming.
Great. Anything else? I guess a question, it's nice for you to come. If the updates are in here, if there's nothing specific, we could probably let you go really instead of waiting here all night. But it's nice to see you. So don't get me wrong. Yep. Good check, Rob.
Sorry, Tony,
Boring public.
Hang on, Mr. Hughes. Hang on, Mr. Hughes.
with that 600, okay, that include the basketball?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yes.
And so you've got 400.
We have from you.
And so we just need another 2. Yeah. And the pour in place the only option.
Yeah.
There's no like alternative like hemp.
That's right.
Hemp matting or anything like that. That might be.
It's all about accessibility and wheelchairs. I mean, I've still yet to do some, you know, some more work around getting costs. So
I'm just thinking of alternative.
it's $300 a square metre.
Yeah, nice.
It's really expensive. That's ballpark. And it's quite a substantial area that we're doing.
Yeah.
I've got about there's 3 providers. And I'm going to, I think before Christmas, I'll be meeting with them face to face to see if we can a little bit of work on them. But yeah.
What's the proposed date in the project to try and get things underway?
Oh, to get things, thought you were going to say when's it going to be finished before the end of the financial year. I'd like to start before, you know, it'd be great to get it in before winter.
Yeah.
Next year. But it just does depend on you know, I guess getting good quotes and things. Yeah, I'd like to start maybe in February, you know, towards the end of February.
Yeah, Councillor Walker, then Board Member Armstrong.
Yeah, in light of the fact that another ward's got some movement and traction, can we piggyback off there? Like, I know we want to keep it local, but if Steve's got a good deal,
yeah,
for the one without quoting where it is there any leverage to get our biggest cost
Yes.
walked in with what they're doing? So if we're doing it on a square meterage.
We agree with you.
Okay.
Absolutely. Steve and I are going to work together on trying to screw some costs down with both projects.
And then there was another question, but I'll let
Board Member Armstrong, then Board Member Hart.
I'll let you ask funding was.
It was Board Member Armstrong.
Just a comment really that I'm aware, I read in the paper, of course, about the Hauora sports hub. So we've got swimming pool, sports hub, and now potentially for fundraising, basically. There's a lot of fundraising now, competing fundraising going on, even applying to organisations like Rata. I don't know how much they've got to sort of give to a range of big projects, basically. That's just an awareness that there's going to be some tight squeezes.
I remember having a conversation around the sport table and testing the board's priority project, but the board decided to back Dex Reserve as well as a swimming pool. So I absolutely agree. Board Member Hart.
Well, interesting. I just leaned over and commented, and you leaned over and commented, and David Armstrong obviously heard. My question was about looking at Rata Foundation for some funding, because it fits in with their new criteria about all inclusive and that sort of thing. There's a lot of groups that have applied. Talking to one of the grant assessors, that's a local chap, that haven't been approved because they don't fit into the criteria. So, but this is a good start. Yeah.
So
Question is
the
who?
councillor
Is it-
Walker raised who, and that's a really good question, because I think when we did the skate park, we may have got some external help from Mr. Tasman Jones might have been there, but Lynn sort of led that process. So one, what projects do council go and apply to? Because there's obviously a big board. How do you get that in there? And then two, who does that question?
We have some steer from
Sorry.
the staff on who would be the appropriate
So
person to do the application.
Yeah, so I'm managing this project individually, you know, we don't got our project team managing this one.
Yep.
I might look at that, but I don't want to let it go. So that would be the best way to deal with it because well, notwithstanding I'm starting to pick up the pool stuff now too, so that's becoming that will be becoming quite busy as well. And the only other thing I think I should let you know too, just about the other playgrounds that are on your radar, which you probably need to make some decisions on, that'll have separate project managers for as well, if you decide to go with those.
So resolution of council office applies, the role that this table has played, I guess the chair's played, is setting those conversations up. So with the likes of Rata Lottery and NZCT, it's just been setting that conversation up, so there's a high likelihood, but then it has to go through a council process, resolution of council. So there's, council with the sign off. Because as you'll know from some reading, this is an unincorporated board with no status. Done? So moved. Did I get a move and second it? Walker. Famous as right. All those in favour, aye? Against, carried, and sorry, that's the next one, it's over. Closing karakia? Are we adjourning? Are we?
Sorry, Mr. Just I can give you an update. The training budget was included in the board expenses line in the financial report, not separately disclosed. So the money isn't lost. It was simply reclassified into your budget.
That's a quick response.
Have it redone next time, so it's easier for us to.
Yeah, we'll have line by line in a minute, but I think.
Thank you.
Karakia.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike.